Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you are connecting in from. Thank you so much for joining in. Yeah, Lillian, I see you. Thank you so much for joining in and welcome. Welcome to today's consultation forum. Yeah, without your presence here, I believe more persons will join in. Yeah, so we'll probably give 5 minutes. Like I was saying, without your presence here, I don't think this consultation forum will actually hold. And the amazing thing is it is meant for young people to contribute their ideas on adolescent issues and gender equality issues affecting women and young girls all over the world. So let's give 4 more minutes for more persons to join in, and then we'll kick off. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Once again, welcome everyone, wherever you're connecting in from the world. And if you're from France or a non-English. Okay, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. So if you're from France or a non-English speaking country, look at the down part, like where you have the icons of your Zoom, and you can change the language to French, Chinese, Mandarin, Indus, or whatever you want to change it to. Just take a look down. I think somebody just changed to French, which is amazing. So once again, welcome everyone to CSW68 Global Youth Adolescent Consultation Forum. This is brought to you by the UN Youth Affairs in partnership with Equality for All. However, Global Politics Affairs, platform that's decided to place the trying to admit people that's decided to place the voices of youths all over the world at the forefront for a sustainable, peaceful, and just world. Now, what we will be doing basically in this consultation is to come up with our recommendations on challenges affecting women, girls, and gender issues. We all know every nation, every individual, every organization is in the race towards the attainment of SDG 2030. And if you look at it, especially beaming the spotlight on SDG 5, gender equality, you would see that a lot is yet to be accomplished in that aspect. We still have women that faces inequality in different dimensions. We have gender-based violence, we have girls out of school, so many challenges facing women and girls all over the world. And the amazing thing there is these women are your mother, your wives, your sisters, your aunts, and even your nephew, your niece. So it is very important that we all come together as we are doing now to come up with our recommendations that will be sent across to UN Youth Affairs. And they would use the recommendations from today's meeting to come up with a policy recommendation, a policy brief, or a policy document towards the attainment of SDG 5, addressing issues that are affecting women all over the world, women and girls. Now, we have a set of questions that will guide us in the conversation, and we have about 7 questions, so we will take them one after the other, and we should do this within 1 hour, 1 hour to 30 minutes. So everybody is meant to contribute. I will go through the question. I will read out the first question. Whilst I look for the question, remember I said this is brought to you by Global Politics Affairs. Basically, what we do is to place youth at the forefront of global issues so youth can come up with analysis and recommendations on global issues. Towards the end of the meeting, I will drop in our social media handles and our website so you can check us out and see where you want to support, in what areas you would like to contribute to your voice. It's basically for young people. So the guiding questions. So number 1 question is, how does poverty present itself in your community? We are from different communities all over the world. Now, because CSW is trying to address issues affecting women and girls, and they are going to do this by addressing poverty issues. And that is why the number 1 question says, how does poverty present itself in your community? Now, how does poverty present itself in terms of women and girls' limitations or women and girls' disadvantages in your community? The floor is open for anyone to answer. There is no wrong or right response. Every response is duly noted and will be shared with the UN Youth Affairs.
Good afternoon. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I want to make a contribution to that question.
Okay, thank you. Is your video on so I can spotlight you?
My video is on.
Okay, I think I can see your video. Okay, you can go, Kolawole.
I want to say that poverty has been improving in developing countries like Africa. I mean, developing countries in Africa. And it has basically affecting the female gender most and foremost. Because it's like the female gender are the vulnerable part to the poverty issues on the continent of Africa. So I think, really a question, really a question that how the poverty
Present itself in your community.
presents itself. Yes, many people are jobless, many people are just trying to make ends meet, like menial jobs that don't bring much income for them. So that's affecting the general community as a whole. So that so poverty is the problem for Africa as a continent. Only two countries in Africa can boast that their citizens are above poverty line. Most citizens of Africa are below the poverty line. And still a backwardness issue for Africa as it is. That's the way I see it actually.
Okay, thank you so much, Kolawole, for that. Joe, I didn't get to hear most of the things you said. I can see some persons are just joining in. Like, once again, for those that are just joining in, welcome to today's consultation forum, Adolescent, CSW68 Adolescent Consultation Forum, basically geared at getting your recommendations on issues that affect women and girls all over the world. And the first question we have taken is, how does poverty present itself in your community? Now, yeah, poverty presents itself in different ways, but we want to look at how it could be in the form of violence, it could be in the form of gender segregation, it could be in the form of gender-based violence against for women, or it could even be in the form of girls dropping out from school. So there are different ways it presents itself, but the UN Youth, oh, if I see your answer, so thank you, I will call you. The UN Affairs want to know, and Equality for All wants to know how poverty presents itself in your various communities. Ife, you have the floor.
Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
So, on the challenge of poverty as regards to the society, from my own immediate environment here, so far what I've been able to observe is poverty has really had a very devastating effect on the socio-economic situation of the people here. And then most importantly, the potentials for the youth. Poverty, because most of them believe that without the necessary support, which is actually true, without the necessary support, and then some of this support requires finance, and then other kind of moral support from the leaders and those that are professionals in one field or the other. Without them having some of this backup, they've not been able to achieve, they've not been able to reach the target of their various potentials. And then it will amaze you to know that some of these youths, they actually have so many things inbuilt in them, but there's no required environment, like there's no enabling environment for them to thrive. And then on the issue of education, that's another challenge. because we can see that in some institutions, the fees are going up of recent, while some can't even afford the fees they are even paying earlier. So you see that this will be a very great challenge. It is already a great challenge for some of the students, and some are already dropped out. Then also on the issue of self-esteem, like some have lost their self-confidence because they believe they are limited already. And this as a result of poverty, if you can look at it critically. Because with the necessary support and necessary motivation, or you believe that you can achieve one or two things with doing what is right and with focus and determination. Also, another thing I would like to point out is the issue of synergy and collaboration. Synergy and collaboration between various actors. You can see that some of these youths, they cannot even access some of these opportunities because of the environment. Someone that is living in a remote place, you cannot compare to someone that is staying in the capital of the state, where you're not even all the states, because there are some states that does not really have much opportunities. You understand? So compared to someone living in a remote environment where he or she does not even have the access to basic facilities. So for such a person to collaborate, develop ideas, will be very difficult, and it will be a very big challenge. So that's all I have to say for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ife, for that. Those are great contributions. A lot of contributions over there, linking it to environment, mental health, which is centered around self-esteem. And to sum it up, all you have just said, I will link it to human capital development, the need to make that available. I see Pai. So we will take just 2 responses and then we'll go to the next question. So I'm sorry, you can contribute to your response in the next question. Pai, you can speak. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I'm from India and I want to contribute in this question. So basically, India is one of the largest populated country in the world. So here poverty also prevails, as unemployment is very much prevailing in India now. So the adolescents or the women are the one who are facing the problems here. The girl child are not allowed to attend their schools. If a family have a boy and a girl child, and if they are in poverty or below poverty line, then they prefer the boy to go to school and take their education, but not the girl. So the girl, they are denied from the basic need, that is education. And along with that, when poverty exists, then violence exists in case of women also. The women are violated and they are considered as the poor section of the society. So they are not given many rights, though the constitution or the human rights has given many rights to women also, equal rights as men and women. But till now in India also, due to poverty and other reasons, women are not getting all the facilities. So the person and everyone in the society should be aware of the fact that as an individual, we have the right to be equal and to get the same privilege as that of the man. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for bringing that perspective from India. And I totally agree with you. I know women and girls in India are facing a lot of discrimination, same as you have in some countries in the global south. So we will quickly move to question number 2 and everyone can contribute. So sorry, Kamsi. And question number 2 says, it's still centered around how poverty presents itself. It says, what specific challenges do young people, especially young women and girls, face in relation to poverty? Remember, question number 1, we tend to generalize it, how it affects youths. It presents itself in your community and affecting you as a young individual. Now we are beaming the spotlight on women and girls. How is it affecting just women and girls in your community? Is that a hand raised or is that from the previous one? I see some comments in the comment section. early marriages from Gaia. It says help from his own community. Poverty presents itself. So before you speak, you can just say the country you're connecting in from and probably your community. It says poverty presents itself. Okay, Tamsi, you will go once I'm done reading this. Through the following, through early marriages, women are married at early ages from 17 years. Absolutely. Even in my country, Nigeria, recently, I think it was a 15-year-old girl got married, was given in marriage to a 45-year-old who's that, or a 50-year-old man. So that is a valid point. Poor healthcare services, malnutrition in some countries. Yes, women that are pregnant are not given the right education or even access to the right diets that would help them. Okay, Tamsi, you can go.
Okay, actually, good morning. I am
Good
Tamsir
morning.
Salah. I'm from Gambia, but currently residing in the Netherlands. I'm sorry for my voice because I'm actually having cold, so but it's okay. I think you can hear me.
Sorry,
Yeah.
it's okay.
So based on the question, because yeah, in terms of poverty, like there are vulnerable groups, and then women and girls actually like cannot be left out because if you see like what's happening in Gambia or in Africa in general, like you can see like how women are actually vulnerable in terms of such issues that are happening because for example in terms of like the conflicting realities that are happening in our current societies like women are definitely forced to make sure that they actually involved into early marriages that at some point people probably tend to associate it to our cultural belief or our traditional belief, which is really not like the case in the general context. And then the other issues like drop out because like okay they feel like women are just people who probably or individuals who can just be at home like for domestic purpose, you understand. So that poor mentality and because of poverty and like the prevailing factor of poverty is really like depriving women from having like access to basic education like opportunities because you can see even like in the gender disparity we actually understood at some schools like women outnumbered the main category but then like in tertiary institutions level and those who actually attain like highest education level if you probably try to outweigh the number you will see that men are like performing more than the women because like there are a lot of like disadvantages that women face with because they feel like okay once you probably have your basic education then if you finish at some communities that is the end like I will take reference in Gambia where we feel like a lot of women especially in the provincial area like when they go until they finish their junior school or senior secondary school they will tend to introduce them to marriage because they feel like they have to go get married and then in turn it's like they trade in those women for their own personal gain because like if I am a father and then my child attend probably senior secondary school I don't need to allow my child to go and further her education in tertiary institution but rather I will introduce the child to marriage whereas I will ask the husband to come and pay the bride price whereas I can use that bride and the bride price is not even it's not Islamically like in our own religious context the bride price is probably even not for the parents but instead for the child can probably describe or like at her own like description she can give it to the parents if she wishes but the bride price is not for the parents to actually utilize but instead it's for the child to make sure at least she take care of herself but then in our societal beliefs it's like the bride price belongs to the parents so instead they will use the money for their own personal gain and purpose and then like there are a lot of like discrimination that are happening in the women category like you can see people are actually being raped and then like the adverse effect of poverty is really like making sure like a lot of our sisters women and girls are actually vulnerable and then like making sure they don't even attain the quality education and like they're not safe in their society and then they are not given the opportunity to even represent their voice in national or global platform whereas they can actually especially if you talk about rape cases and whatever issues they feel like women's voice need not to be raised and they need not to talk about it like the culture of silence is really like killing a lot of people, and the unawareness is all like contributing towards it. And I think like it is high time that we advocated for some of those issues to actually, see how best, like, we can definitely stand towards some of those like, bad practices that are happening in our communities and society. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Tamsi. One of the points you mentioned, which I would just emphasize, lots of valid points, was when you talked about tertiary institution. And then I remember that another way discrimination or poverty presents itself against women is in certain courses in the university. You see, they say, oh, this course is just for, it's a women's course. A man is not meant to study that course. And you see few women studying that course. I'm sorry, you see few men studying that course and more women. Now you get this same discrimination in some other courses where you see less women and more male. So these, by the time this discrimination happens, it kind of presents a form of poverty limitation to especially the female gender. We'll quickly go to the second question. Now, once again, my name is Lillian Efobi. I don't think I actually mentioned my name. Yes, my name is Lillian Efobi. And towards the end of this consultation, thank you everyone for joining and contributing your ideas. A Google form will be shared where you can fill in your name so it can be added to the document that will be sent to the UN Youth Affairs. Now, the second question says, how can poverty be addressed to accelerate the achievement of gender equality and the empowerment of all women and girls? Now, when you're thinking of this question number 2, you're also looking at, you should be looking at what role can financing with a gender perspective play in accelerating the achievement of gender equality? What successful models or strategies have you encountered or envisioned towards gender equality? And how can existing financial mechanisms be improved or reimagined to better serve these goals, that is gender equality? Now we're looking at what can be done, how, especially financing here. Financing, I think, plays a big role in limiting the way poverty affects women and girls, because when women and girls are empowered, but I don't just want it to be empowerment with finance, but also empowerment with skills, personal development, career. It will limit poverty mentality and discrimination, because one of the participants mentioned about self-esteem, that was Ife. If women and girls are empowered academically, socially, and mentally, their self-esteem will increase and they will be able to stand out or stand up against some of these practices which they face, especially women and girls in the rural areas. So what do we think concerning this question number 2? Okolawole.
Yeah, good morning once again. I'm Kolaole from Lagos, Nigeria. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. With the question, I think poverty is something that, is a bane on development of the female gender in Africa and in the world at large, where there are low-income countries. So if the government can work on the skills, if the gender more skills yeah, they can have something that they can bring to their home, independence. But when they have the level of independence to work on themselves, it really help them a lot to, to be financially independent. Most of the time, based on what the two speakers have said earlier on, Samsi and the prayer, they said, that the female gender are being exploited. Some of them after the secondary school, they will make to force into marriage and all that for exploitation by their parents. So I think, if government can really intervene in such challenges that the female gender is facing in terms of eradication of poverty generally, because they are at the receiving end, the female gender are at the receiving end of this issue called poverty, and they tend to suffer a lot from it, especially in developing countries like Africa and Asia, most especially. That through prevention and education, the female gender should now work on their education. They should be given some benefits that some male gender have. The female gender should be given some benefits so it can be at par with the male gender in terms of the acquisition of skills and knowledge, so that they won't fall into exploitation anymore. And then you can actually balance up. Thank you. That's what I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that contribution. Yes, you emphasize the point on human capital development, which I totally agree with you. Now, currently work on a social innovation called Skills on Wheels. Basically, what this social innovation is all about is empowering out-of-school children with basic education and vocational or financial and literacy empowerment. Now, before we started this innovation, now when I say out of school children, I am referring to the Amajiri children, and those from Nigeria will know who the Amajiri children are. Before we started this innovation, we had an interview with these children, and one of the discoveries made was that some of these children don't want to go to school. They want to make money. And if you put them in school without them making money, they will not stay. So how do you ensure that they remain useful? Because if they are not making money, they will devise both the right and wrong means to actually make that money. So to prevent them from making the money through the wrong ways, it's through skills empowerment, especially for the females who are married off at a very young age. When you empower them, you talked about government providing institutions, standard institutions for girls and women to learn skills that will be useful to them, and they can earn a living out of these skills. Very important, because not all of them can actually afford to go to tertiary institutions. So human capital development is very key. Thank you once again, Kolawole. Now, back to this number 2 question. We'll look at the C part. I want to try and simplify it. That says that how can existing financial mechanisms be improved or reimagined to better serve these goals? Well, still talking about what financial mechanisms that can be used to reduce gender inequality. Then the B part says, what can institutions do, or what successful models or strategies? I don't know if there's anyone here that works, is our organization does things around gender equality in terms of supporting women that have been abused. So that part, I would say it's advocacy, very key, because most people in the society are not aware that these practices exist. And even if they are aware, they probably do not have the right knowledge. There is right and wrong knowledge. So whichever one you're exposed to will determine how you will act towards another person. And so if members of the society are exposed to the wrong knowledge about women and girls, then this knowledge is what they will use to carry out actions or activities that will affect women and girls. Tamsi, I see your hands up, so you can speak now. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll probably just contribute, but then I didn't really work directly with them, but then I know people who are definitely working with such people. I can hear myself. I don't know whether is it only me or
No, we can hear you clearly.
oh, okay, then that's fine. Yeah, I mean, like, okay, the issue that we really need to address first is, okay, we understood that there are really supports that are happening, and then we have like a lot of conflict of interest happening in the society, where people just like be saying you'll be advocating for women and girls empowerment or like women's right and whatever, form their organizations or active or associations just to tap fund for them to actually do something in the name of empowering women and girls. We've seen it happening in different societies and communities. The, the thing that we can do is like, to make sure that we are actually accountable ourselves, like our own individual, like, they say it like change begin from oneself, you understand? If you want to effect change, you have to change yourself and your mindset first. Because like, for example, as a human right or like, human right activists who's maybe advocating for women's affairs and issues, you have to make sure that you understood or you understand like the disparity that actually women are facing. Like for example, if like in Gambia, for example, where we feel like okay, a lot of the women who are vulnerable are living in the city side, and then most of them probably you understood that they live in the city side, but we actually try to neglect the people who are in the rural area. They also deserve the equal opportunity and and like all the other support that the women in the city side have. So like in such situations we've seen like projects or support is not being decentralized. It is just centered at a place. You understand? When you talk about vulnerable groups or women or children or that category, we have to make sure that we understand like the disparity, like the orientation of all those people, because like there are certain people in the community, like because of their community beliefs and community and like how they are actually trained, they don't even tend to talk about their own issues or affairs because like it is definitely against their societal beliefs and norms. You understand? But if you're advocating for those people, you have to make sure that you go to the to the community and understand their situation and talk to them in the language that they can understand. But most of these projects or activities or support are just self-centered, like in the urban area. So now it's actually like something that we have to account ourselves for to make sure that any support, because there are a lot of support happening in this like campaign to make sure that we end women and children's disadvantage or disproportionate and all those issues that we can probably talk about. But then, like, we have to be making sure that, we design policies and strategies and also like, implementations, like strategies to see that, we let us not just focus on the urban area, but then the community level, like at the village level, people who are there, the women who or the children who are deprived from basic education care, how can we campaign to advocate for them to go back to school? Like the people who are actually like drop out, or the people who are probably impregnated and then they decided to drop out of school. How can we make sure like we bring them back to the society and to the community and make them understand that they belong to the society and they belong to the community, and then like such like such comments, it is not up to you. Nobody prayed for such issues to happen to an individual or woman of God. But we have to make sure that we actually give them the required support. But whoever like face such issues like you're left out of the community and then like struggling with that trauma and depression until probably at some point you see people in fact will probably do something that is against their own wish. So it is important that we understand some of those, because there are certain people ideally they don't talk about their problems at all. So we are the people who can advocate for their issues and make sure we support them with the required support and finance or like help that they need within the community level. We don't just have to focus on our projects activities just at the like at the city side or at the urban center. So those are also part of the contributions that I wanted to share.
Thank you so much, Tamsi. Those are valid points. I remember in one of the consultation forum I attended, that was on the 3rd of January. It was centered around the future summit, which will be happening later the year. What do young people think should be included in the future summit? And one of the things which you just mentioned that I mentioned was around accountability and advocacy. Now, they were looking at climate change, what can be done, and of the things I addressed was who is ready to actually make the sacrifice concerning climate change, because we keep on having lots
Seems like there's a network challenge.
Yeah, I believe so. Who is the co-host? Probably can moderate the session while she connects.
Yeah. Based on what
Can
good morning,
everyone hear me?
everybody. Based on what Leah has been saying,
Yes, Lillian, we can hear you.
Okay, thank
You
you.
lost connection.
Yeah, sorry, my network. Yeah, I was speaking, like Kamsi said, taking advocacy to women and girls in the rural area who do not have access to facilities that would give them the opportunities and empowerment to be able to stand on their own. Now, women and girls in the cities, yes, of course, they tend to face certain discriminations, but those in the rural areas are usually impacted more by poverty and gender inequality. So there is the need as young people on this call, when we are speaking out against gender inequality, it is vital that we take it, we recognize women and girls in the rural area who do not have people to speak for them. It talked about being the voice for the especially those that cannot come out to speak. There's something I do say that as a young person, you are the voice to lots of young people out there that are yet to find their voice. So Raya, Jamilu, Kalawale, Kamsi, Anthony, they are lots of able to speak or even unable to find out why they're existing, and certain things happen to them that are not meant to happen. So if you find yourself in the midst of those young people, know that you're meant to stand up for them and let them know that they have a voice. Even though they're yet to find their voice, you will be the voice for them. So quickly go to the third question. I'll read the term says, how can institutions or be strengthened or transformed to address poverty? Now, when you're thinking about this question, you're looking at what barriers limit institutions from addressing poverty, what innovative approaches or reforms could enhance this impact. And yes, so you're looking at those two things. What barriers limit institutions from addressing poverty, and what innovative approaches or if reforms could enhance this impact? Yes, there are lots of institutions. Like I was asking earlier, is there any organization, NGO that is doing things around gender inequality, gender-based violence? These are some institutions that are addressing poverty and other malpractices that affect women in the society. However, they are faced with certain limitations, and those limitations are the things we want to discuss right now. And also we want to look at, okay, amidst these limitations they are facing, what innovative approaches or reforms, now reforms in terms of what can the government do or what can they as an organization do internally to ensure that these limitations do not affect them in the work they are doing towards addressing or dismantling the obstacles of poverty that faces women and girls in the community. Do anybody? I'm trying to think top of my head, though I don't do things around, I don't work around gender-based violence. But if I recall, I think a friend of mine worked around gender-based violence, does work around gender-based violence. And I think one of the challenge our organization was facing is in terms of corruption that is embedded in the system now. A young girl that was abused by an elderly or a male or an elderly man, and then this case was taken to the police station, and the police were requesting that they pay certain amount of money before this case can be investigated, instead of doing the needful. Though we've had cases of whereby when a forced rape happens and the right personnel, whoever is guilty, definitely faces the punishment. But most times, you see corruption that limits these organizations from doing it. Like, if you don't give us something, we will not look into it. Or why are you putting your mouth in this? Is it your business? Is it your sister? Things like that. And you're wondering, why is the security institution saying this thing? They are meant to be defenders of human rights, but yet look at what they are saying. So there's a need to enlighten the security personnel that are meant to protect lives and properties. When situations or cases like this are brought to them, they know what to do. I see Ambi Moody, we are hands on. That's Prince. I see your hands on. You can speak right away.
All right. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and I'm greatly humbled for the kind gesture and to be part and parcel of this global youth consultative meeting on the adolescent and other aspects of human development. My apology for joining the meeting very late, and I'm sure that the meeting started a very long time, but I feel it's very important for me again to add value to this very important meeting as the African youth leader.
Yes,
and,
three. Or do you want me to read out question 3 again?
Yeah, so I don't know if I can speak or perhaps I can ask a question. I don't know, whichever, if grace period is given to me.
I didn't get that.
I am asking a question to say, should I speak my mind off, or I ask a question now that I joined the meeting very late, and my apology for that.
No, that's fine. You can go ahead to speak. If you want to speak concerning question 3, yes, you're free to speak.
Yeah, I don't.
Oh, we can't seem to hear you.
Is it okay if I speak, Lillian? I think he's asking, he would like to make a contribution, not particularly on number 3 right away. So I don't know if because I think we're currently discussing question 3. So he's asking to make a contribution, but I don't know if it's particularly about question 3. But you might want to read out the question again for those that just joined as well. Cheers.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Prince, you can make a contribution since we don't have any ends up at the moment. So I'll be dropping some of the questions. Now, we'll quickly go to question 4. Or do we still have any contribution for question 3? Oh, Kalawale, yeah, you can speak right away.
So thank you so much. One thing I noticed is that security agencies, the police especially, in a country like Nigeria, they try to overlook some things that are not serious overlooking. Like the issue that you mentioned, that someone was raped and the issue was taken to the police station, and then the police are not asking that they take certain amount of money before they can open the case for that matter. It's not supposed to be so. Not at all. You can't find that happening in developed countries. You can't find that happening. In developed countries like USA, like France, like United Kingdom, you can't find that kind of situation happening. It can never happen. Even in developing countries like Nigeria and other developing countries around us, that kind of situation occurs. And it's so appalling. It's so appalling that's happening like that, because everybody will have the right to voice out. Like I remember Me Too campaign, when everyone were protesting that Me Too was affected by specific person, the issue of Epstein and other top-notch Hollywood producers that were implicated them. So I think that if the doctor can do more on security apparatus and letting them know that they are duty to protect citizens and not to exploit them, we will not go in solving some of the greater problems that we are having today. So that is the contribution I have to say.
Thank you so much, Kalawale. Absolutely. Everyone has the right to speak out. Thank you for that. We'll quickly go to question 4. Question 4 says, youth and adolescent regional poverty and financing. It says, what are the main challenges to youth and adolescent voices and agency in poverty and financing discussions? What are the innovative, excuse me, what are the innovative strategies that young people can use to influence poverty and financing discussions? What are the ways of strengthening institutions to address poverty? And what are the ways in which the UN can engage with young people on issues like poverty and financing? This is a very valid question. So everyone's opinion greatly everyone's opinion is greatly welcome. Oh, Prince, okay. I hope your network is sorted out.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You can get me now?
Yes, we can, Claire.
All right. Thank you so much. I'll be quick for this one. It may not be necessarily a question, but it's a contribution which I wanted also to also add value to this very important meeting, like I said in my preamble. The first thing is I want to congratulate you most sincerely and thank you once again for the opportunity. This is a very important meeting at a high level. I feel being a global youth consultative meeting, and I'm sure the publicity was done enough for many young people in the SADC region and also other regions in Africa and globally, for them to actually take keen interest in terms of participating to this very important meeting. However, in regards to your question, with the little experience which I've gained during the lockdown period, where we're trying to connect many young people, we had another topic related to the same, which said youth, hunger, and poverty. So it's the same as this one. Young people currently, young people, they are very much innovative, very creative, and actually supplementing member states' effort in terms of government and also other civil society organizations, starting at local, national, regional, and continental, as well as international. So you may realize that there are so many youth organizations and many young people activists at the same time at the continental level, but they are not being supported They are not being supported in a way that whenever you hear of youth empowerment, whenever you hear of young people not being innovative, it means the senior generation, there are some interests there in terms of jealousy, in terms of actually blocking these vibrant young people to excel, blocking these young people to excel, and also bringing out their innovativeness when it comes to creating employment for themselves and also creating these opportunities. We have representatives at that level. For example, under here, Southern Africa, we have an organization, institution, which says the Southern Africa Youth for SADC, which is working closely with the many young people in the SADC region. But you see, these young people, it's not everyone who is actively involved. And then there are these also other civil societies which are working hand in hand with ECOSOC, with African Union, Youth Envoys, and so on and so forth. To mention just a few. But I'm not seeing any impact from the time I started interacting with that for us. But now, what I'm seeing now is many young people, 3/4 of them now, they are forming organizations. They're trying to be innovative so that they reduce the poverty and hunger aspect, more especially this current generation, so to say. So there are so many challenges which are faced by those many young people. They are not funded. Even if they apply for youth empowerment, they are not funded. Only few who are known also to the same, because of the issue of corruption now comes in, stigmatization comes in, as well as the regionalism and so on and so forth. Mentioned but a few. But otherwise, that's a very, very, very critical question which we are, and we need to address it right up now, not tomorrow, but we don't have to wait for that. So I just wanted to actually is to open up your eyes and also your ears so that you understand and know what is really happening, being a young person who is a youth ambassador at the same time. So I've experienced a lot in terms of youth movement. So anyway, it was just my retro contribution since we don't have time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Lots of valid points which you stated, but one thing I got out from the things you just highlighted is the need for the older generation to support the young generation and not cut them off. Very key. Please let me see your hands. Jamilu, you have the floor.
Sorry, good afternoon. Sorry, good morning, everyone. Sorry, you would have observed that I haven't said anything quite a while because I'm in a community, so in a local government, so I'm pretty occupied. That is why I didn't say anything. But let me just contribute. Let me have the time so that regarding to what Moody have just said, Prince, saying that most of this organization that are working on the area of youth and adolescents find it difficult to implement effective strategy or innovative in order to execute their projects. At the end of the day, we find out that most of them normally implement projects that it will end up not having an effective impact on the youth or adolescent, because the reason why is that we do not have a strategic plan on how to make sure that these youth are well empowered. Because when working with youth or adolescent, it's not just something that you work in a day and that is done. No, you need to strategize with them, be friendly with the community, know their needs, sit down with them. Not that you just plan on your own from your office and say that, oh, I'll be going to your community and I'm going to give them a bicycle that should be going to farm. No, you need to sit down with this youth and adolescent. Sit down, know their problems, know what they feel. Tell them that, okay, if we want to bring you out of poverty, what are your objections? What is the reason? What do you think that is causing poverty in this your community? How can we help? So when you have that background survey on what you can do, then you use that background and add your own initiative as an advocate of youth or gender, depending on who you are. From there, you move on to them. You sit down with them with their women too, because you can't do this without the women. Because one of the way to remove an society or community from poverty is by empowering the women to in that locality as well. So immediately empowering those women in that locality and the youth as well, believe me, there's going to be a robust economy in that locality, because immediately you are empowering the youth, the adolescents, and the women and the girls in that locality. Definitely, there's going to be an impactful what would I say, an impactful progress in the community that it will lead to a success of that project. So we all have this priority of doing what we didn't do a basic research on what these people need before bringing in our own innovation. No, when you see a community, try to study them before bringing in the innovation. Try to know what their problem. Hear from them themselves. Don't do this speaking on your own. Let them speak with their own voice. By knowing what they need, that is how you now know how you need to encounter such problems in order to be successful. So I'm sorry to cut it off short here, because the environment is not conducive here, so I can't talk a lot. That's why if you observe, I haven't said anything for a while. So I was in a community, kind of some community work in one local government, so I'm even in our box. That is why I just have to cut off from the community work and just incite my own meaningful contribution to this wonderful platform. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jamilu, for making that sacrifice to contribute to the discussions going on. Now, there's something you said, that when women in a community are empowered, there's an economic boom in the community. And that is basically what this consultation forum is all about, how we can empower women and girls so as to dismantle every form of poverty that has limits women and girls. And this is towards the attainment of SDG 5, that is gender equality. Thank you so much for that. So we quickly go to, if we don't have any, do I see a hand? Kamsi, you have your hands up.
Sorry, let me bring it down.
I'm sorry, that was a mistake.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, so let's quickly go to question 5. So question 5, and trying to find it. So question 5 and 6 are basically, yeah, so I'll try and share, so 7 is to acknowledge the young people on this call that have contributed to this conversation. Then 5 and 6 are basically recommendations. So whilst we are sharing our final recommendations, the Google form will be shared so we can add our names, and this will be added in the documents that will be sent to UN Youth Affairs. So final to capital, what are the final recommendations you want the UN Youth Affairs in partnership with Generation Equality? Remember, this is being brought to you by Global Politics Affairs, but the report is going to UN Youth Affairs in partnership with Generation Youth Equality, because sometime in, hold on, I'm coming. Sometime in March, global leaders will meet at the UN to discuss gender equality, poverty, and financing. So what is that one thing you want them to take note of or to take action on as a young leader towards gender equality, poverty, and financing of initiatives to promote gender equality? What is that one thing? It can be 2, it can be 1 that you think they should do. I've had accountability, I've had consultation with the people being impacted or affected by gender inequality and poverty. I've had a lot on this call today, but then I would love a summary from everyone that has contributed to today's discourse. What is that one thing that will stand out for you and was said on that day at the meeting in the UN, that this is what Tamsi from the Gambia wants the UN to do concerning gender inequality and poverty that affects women and girls and limits them from achieving or attaining their full potential? The floor is open before, so everyone would definitely contribute so we can wrap up. Francis, I see your hands up.
Yeah, thank you, Lillian. For me, I would just believe in, I would say more effort should be made to sensitize and educate people, because I notice with education, a lot of challenges can be tackled. Take for instance, there is something they do. There is this program they do here in the UK. I don't know if they do it in other parts of the world. There is something they encourage young ladies to learn, and that is Ask for Angela. Now, what that Ask for Angela is in a situation whereby a female finds herself in any challenging situation, suffering from gender-based violence. Anybody that is educated or anybody that uses social media basically must have come across that term. So if a random lady walks up to you and says, "Oh, please, do you know where Angela is?" you will immediately know that she's in danger, and then you can help her. So I think if you sensitize local communities and then encourage them to be able to speak up. Now, this is not even about talking to the police or whatever. Like in Africa, we are mostly family oriented. We find ourselves in situations whereby something happens in the community, we don't take it to the government. The elders in the community deal with it. And, that practice has been going on and on. So if we're able to sensitize people on these little aspects and encourage them to be able to deal with issues within the family without overburdening the government or the police, I think it will go a great way in helping to solve the issues of domestic violence, gender-based violence. And yeah, it's one that will really help a lot, so that we don't need to rely on the police all the time. When crimes are committed that need to be reported, the community gathers evidence, and straightforward, they take it up with the government. Sometimes there are some evidences you present that cannot be denied. And then I think sensitization and education will really help a long way in, tackling poverty and gender-based violence.
Thank you, Francis, for that. Absolutely, sensitization. Like I mentioned earlier, what you don't know, you will not know how to go about it. So when people in the rural community are not aware of ways to limit these practices that limit women, then they will keep on doing it. And that is why I'll always give kudos to NGOs that are not working in the cities, but are going to the rural areas to educate, sensitize, and empower women and girls in these communities with the necessary skills and knowledge they require to limit poverty that presents itself in different ways through gender-based violence, whatever it is. And most times this poverty actually leads these young girls and women into activities they never would have thought they would have ventured into. Thank you once again, Francis, for that. I see Tamsi. Tamsi, yes, you can speak.
Hey, thank you. Just to reiterate what Francis had said, it's actually I don't know, Francis or Prince or so, yeah, yeah, it was Francis. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, some of the recommendations that I will also put across will be like community outreach and sensitization is key and paramount. Definitely, we also need to make lot of research, because it's important that we understand, the data that, especially in certain communities, like for example, in terms of projects implementation strategy, like if there is an NGO that want to support your movement, or some of uh, uh, the the activities you're doing or your campaign, you need to have a research, like a data is very important that can definitely help you understand in this particular community X, Y, and Z, this is what is happening there, and how many people are actually like for example, the women who actually drop out, how many percentage of the women who are there actually are drop out, or how many percent of the women don't have basic healthcare service, or they didn't have access to quality education and all those things. Data is very important. So the other recommendation will be let us have like a dialogue between the government and NGOs and civil society organizations, to make sure that we actually have that enabling environment for people to advocate and people to give back to the community and to support them who are actually in vulnerable needs, or in their need. Like for example, example, in Gambia, where we have the Ministry of Gender, Children's and Women Affairs, probably have to work with UNICEF, that is like, the institution, that is UN institution very responsible about children's affairs and all those things, like, emergency fund and all those things. And we also have like, some women organizations that are also advocating for women and girls campaign about, gender-based violence, and also like, support the girl child and all those things. Like, we have to make sure that we work together and see how best, like, we can support the government, because it's all geared towards promoting the rights of the girl child, the women and children in vulnerable communities. It's very important we work together, because as outlined in the UN SDG 17 talks about partnership for the goals. It's always important, because we don't need to always be putting blame on the government about, they have to do this, they have to do that. We also have our social corporate responsibilities, like most of these NGOs and institutions that are not directly working with government, they also have their responsibilities. They also have their social corporate responsibility to see that, they also give back to the community. Likewise, us, we cannot say what we can do for the government, but rather we can also say like we cannot say what the government can do for us, but instead what we can do for the government, because we are the government. We actually, constitute the government, and we elect our representatives in office. So it is always important that we also serve our community and make sure give back to the community that actually made us who we are today. And the final recommendation is like, let the youth and the young people take up the responsibility themselves. We don't have to wait for people to come and rescue us to us what we are doing. Let us speak up. Let us talk about our concerns and our needs. Let us make sure that we hold our people accountable. Let us go to the platforms. Let's organize campaigns. Let's organize seminars. Let's organize events to raise awareness and talk about some of these issues that are happening in our, day-to-day life that really have a long-term effect to our society. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tamsi. You've made lots of valid points, and you made mention around data, very key. Yes, if we really want to tackle the obstacles that affect women and girls, then we need to have the data on what we are doing or what we have done and what we can do better. Lots of valid points. We are the government, absolutely, because we elected them into power. And how can we give back to communities that have made us? So now let me use Africa as an example. When we go to the Western nations, the thought should be, how can we give back to communities that have made us? Thank you so much for that point. Jamilu, I see your hands up. You can go next. Thank you.
Okay. You said that we should try and cover out what we have just said in particular was that to be sent to the UN for evaluation and so other processing. So I think for me, I have one of the okay. Let me try and cover the issue of data collection. You can put it in this way: data collection and research. That should be one, and we also have policy development and implementation, because lack of policy development and implementation leads to poverty in our society, because there is these policies and there's one thing that policy should be there and it should not be implemented is a problem. So I think that should be looking into. We also have economic empowerment program. So the economic empowerment program should focus on the youth and women as well. So I think that will help. And we also have health and well-being. This is also an important aspect. So health and well-being will also help us in this way to achieve our goals. And if UN want to achieve a global scale, the UN need to collaborate with other NGOs and CBOs in the community to achieve a global scale of impact in the society or in the region. Because if the UN says they are going to work alone, they won't be able to reach the global scale they are wishing to reach. But immediately they collaborate with other NGOs, CBOs, FBOs, and I believe they could, in order to achieve these goals that I just mentioned, I think it will go a long way. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. That is actually encompassed in, so in essence, it's working on an implementable human capital development framework. Thank you. Quickly, we'll go to Ife.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
So actually, those that have spoken that they've actually made valid point, and I will just drop one or two recommendations. So the first of it all is the need to intensify advocacy, because this is also very much important. Whatever we are doing, we must consider the fact that advocacy is like the bedrock of whatever we are going to be doing, or any kind of partnership we are going to be entering into. And then advocacy also, intensifying advocacy, we go a long way in reaching out to the concerned individuals, concerned action, those that are to take necessary actions in implementing some of these strategies. And then another thing I would like to talk about is synergy and collaboration. For those in the development sectors, various organizations that are doing one or two things to contribute to issues of global governance and politics, it is very important that collaboration and synergy, because it's when we come together, work with partners, and make valid contributions, share ideas, innovations, and get the necessary support. That is when certain things can be implemented. So by doing that, it will reach out to those who are really affected. I mean, those in the grassroots, those the real victims of these challenges. So, and then another thing, as youth, just like Mr. Jamilu said the other time, that as youth, we must be able to take the necessary actions and be and do the needful. By taking the necessary action, we must also partner. We must have a resolution within ourselves first, like we have something, because when we are meeting those in the at the ends of affairs, they'll be able to see that these individuals, they are ready. Not that you present one or two things, but you don't even have the it does not have the basic ingredients to convince them. So as youth, we must work on convincing proposals on issues that I want to deal with, and I believe that will go a long way. So that is what I have to say for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. Ife, Anthony, Kolawole, Jamilu, Irayan, Sharifatu, Francis, Bahi, Prince, Isata, James, Papa. Thank you so much, and many others that have joined and left the call. Lots of keywords I've taken out: collaboration, accountability, monitoring and evaluation, data and research, synergy, like a lot of vital keywords and vital points that when the UN Youth Affairs, they see it, they know that truly young people have spoken, and these definitely will be taken into consideration. So what I want you to do for me, the Gmail of Global Politics Affairs is dropped in the chat. So you send a mail that basically in that mail, what you'll be sending is your name and a short bio. So your name, short bio, and your picture, a good picture. So we can spotlight you on our social media as a way of saying thank you for your participation in today's consultation forum. Your name and short profile or bio would also be included in the document that will be shared to UN Youth Affairs. So once again, thank you so much. James, you can drop the email for them to see. So once again, thank you so much for participating actively in today's consultation forum. Like I said, this is brought to you by Global Politics Affairs on behalf of UN Youth Affairs and Equality for All. This is towards the CSW68 forum that will be happening sometime in March in the UN, and basically targeted around dismantling poverty barriers that affect women and girls all over the world. And thank you for contributing your perspective and opinion on ways to dismantle these issues that affect women and girls and towards the attainment of SDG 5, which is gender equality. Thank you once again, and do have an amazing weekend and a great year ahead. I am your moderator once again, Lillian FOB. Thank you.
Thanks for organizing. It was a pleasure.
You're welcome.